Trump is, I think, is confusing causation with association.
Dr. Frank, you recently published an article on Forbes where you talk about sound money. And you've also got an article that will be coming out soon where you'll be talking about Trump's trade policy. So here is Trump's website where he outlines his future trade deals with China. Do you agree with this?
Well, what Trump says is that we've lost high-paying manufacturing jobs to China because it subsidizes its exports, it gives it tax advantages, and it manipulates its currency. Okay, and he also talks about these rusting Midwestern cities where we used to, produce steel in the United States. Now, we have to ask ourselves, where do high-paying jobs come from? Okay, in a competitive environment, high-paying jobs come from high productivity. Okay. The reason that your living standards are higher than the people in Africa is not because, we're smarter or we work harder. It's because your labor is grafted onto a much larger capital base. Okay. In other words, Robinson Crusoe will catch more fish with a net than if he's just using his hands. And the more nets he has, okay, the more will be his productivity, and in a competitive environment, so will be his higher wages, okay? Now, we have to realize that suppose that China was subsidizing its exports to the point where we were basically getting them for free. Okay. Well, what does that mean? That means basically the resources we were using, okay, to make these products, we'd be able to use them on other goods and services. Okay. In other words, the capital that we were using on textiles and steel, we can now use that capital somewhere else, which means higher salaries in those other industries. Okay. So that trade in China has actually led to higher wages. Okay. Trump's policy is actually based on scarcity. We have to realize that tariffs are not going to increase the amount of capital. Okay? What it's going to do is divert capital to the import competing industries. So in other words, we have a certain amount of capital that will be distributed among a greater number of goods, which will basically reduce the wages in those particular industries. So what we have is that Trump's policy would actually lead to just the opposite of what he supports, which is a higher wages. Okay, and the real problem we have is that Trump is, I think, is confusing causation with association. Okay, the real reason that the average salary of the average American worker has been declining is primarily because of the American central bank. Okay, and it's what I can only call legal counterfeiting over the last since 1971. Okay, and a very simple example will make this clear. Suppose that you have 10 apples and $10. Okay, market forces will ensure that the price of the apple will be $1. Okay, now suppose the central bank comes in and prints another $10. So we have $20 chasing 10 apples. Okay, the price of the apples will go to $2, and the central bank has essentially stealth taxed you, or we, 5 apples. Okay, we have to realize that the central bank is basically the thief in the night. Okay, stealing the purchasing power of your money while you're sleeping.
And Trump has also said that when he's president, all bridges and cars in the US are going to be made with American steel. If that were to be the case, what type of impact would that have on the US economy and trade?
My question is that what would a Trump administration do when the big 3 automakers turn around and say that, Audi, BMW, Toyota are getting an unfair competitive advantage because they're using, Chinese steel? Okay, would that imply that ultimately we would start putting restrictions on all goods that have Chinese components, okay, as part of their product? Okay, and we can see that this clearly would lead to a trade war, okay, where basically everybody loses.
Trump has also said that when he becomes president, he's going to negotiate to get a better deal for the US in regards to fair trade. Do you agree with this?
Well, first we have to realize is that no country has fair trade. Okay, the U.S. has the Import-Export Bank, which is also a subsidy to exports. Okay, but we have to realize is that trade is not like negotiating with a supplier, where one wins at the expense of the other. Okay, trade is a win-win situation, and the best policy the U.S. could implement is one where it eliminates all restrictions on imports. Okay, I'm a true believer in abundance, not scarcity.
Well, Dr. Frank, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your insight with us.
Enjoy being here.
That's all from myself and Dr. Frank today, but if you like this video, be sure to give it a like and comment on our website.